Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating spiritual concept from our source text. It's called the law of gathering and scattering. Now, to really grasp this, I want you to visualize your everyday life like a literal physics experiment. Seriously. According to this theology, you're constantly acting as a force. Are you a magnet pulling people in, or are you a repellent pushing them away? Let's break down the foundation of this framework. So, the whole idea is built on this quote right out of the Gospel of Matthew. "He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad." I mean, talk about a stark, unavoidable binary, right? The author highlights that Jesus doesn't leave any wiggle room here. There's no neutral ground. You're either a magnetic force drawing people to the faith, or you're a repelling force pushing them away. It's a really powerful visual. You are either gathering or you're scattering abroad. You can actually visualize this dynamic just like opposing physical forces. On one hand, you've got gathering. Think of this as a centripetal force. It's this warm, active draw that pulls people inward toward a spiritual center, ultimately giving glory to God and bringing them closer to the heavenly kingdom. But then, on the flip side, scattering acts as a centrifugal force. The source argues that scattering creates distance and spiritual chaos, driving people completely away from the faith. The text even points out that simply not confessing Christ falls into this scattering bucket, just because the soul isn't actively giving glory to God. So, what exactly does gathering look like in practice? Well, the text gives us a clear working definition based on the biblical principle that every knee should bow and every tongue confess Jesus Christ as Lord. According to the author, true gathering means your very existence brings visible glory to God. It isn't just sitting back passively and believing. No, it's a highly active lifestyle. It acts as a beacon. The idea is that you naturally gather others simply by how you live your everyday life and who you confess as Lord. Which brings us to section 1, on unknowingly pushing people away. Now, the crazy thing is, scattering isn't usually some intentional campaign against the faith. Often, it happens totally by accident. The text specifically calls out fragmented, careless lifestyle choices, things like fornication and misusing someone else's life. The relational fallout there can make a person feel so overwhelmingly guilty that they might never step foot inside a church again. That right there, that's scattering. Or think about a pastor who lives carelessly. The text argues that if a leader fails to visually reflect the goodness of God, they aren't setting an example. They're unknowingly driving their flock away. Basically, if your daily actions push people from God, you're actively scattering. And we need to pause here for a second because the source material adds a profound sense of gravity to this. It warns us that unknowingly scattering people isn't just some minor social mistake. The author explicitly states that Jesus can actually stand against such actions on the final judgment day. If a person's actions are driving others away from God, they're directly violating that initial command. It's a pretty heavy, sobering realization. But don't worry, the text doesn't just leave us in despair. Moving right along to section 2, excellence as a magnet. Instead of just avoiding the bad, the source maps out a highly proactive visual approach. The author notes this frustrating reality where, a lot of times, people of the world look incredibly attractive in what they do, while believers kind of fail to shine. So, how do we fix that? The text lays out 4 cohesive steps so you don't just blend in. First, build a prayerful foundation in your daily walk. But then, push further. Strive to excel. Represent Christ excellently in everything you do, and honestly, make following Christ look beautiful. The ultimate goal is to literally outshine worldly attractions. The argument here is that your work ethic, your lifestyle, and the way you treat people should create this magnetic desire in others to know Christ. To really ground this visually, the source gives the perfect example of the excellent student. Let's say you're in school. Your job, according to the text, is to absolutely excel academically and personally. Because when you do, your peers are going to look at that sheer dedication, respect it, and notice, hey, that person is a Christian. The author argues that finding excellence in mundane, everyday tasks, whether you're studying for an exam, running a small business, or managing a household, acts as a massive gathering force. It becomes a literal magnet, prompting the people around you to inquire about the faith, driving that excellence. And finally, we arrive at section 3, your daily reflection. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to leave this one huge question hanging in your mind today. Is my life drawing people closer to God, or is it pushing people away? The source text challenges every single one of us to evaluate ourselves against this standard every day. Take a hard look at your business, your relationships, your private habits, and your public excellence. Remember that stark binary we started with? You are either a magnetic draw toward the kingdom, gathering with Christ, or you're a centrifugal force, living carelessly and scattering the folks around you. It's a choice we make every single day. So which force will you be?